Welcome to Healthy and Active in the Couve. I am Nick. I am a certified personal trainer through NASM, also a certified nutrition coach. And with me, as always, is Dr. Trent Corey. And we're going to have some fun talking about running today, running technique, maybe possible running injuries. I want to get into some heart health while we're doing it. But how's it going today, Trent?
Doing well, Nick. How are you? Good to see you.
See you. I'm excited. So, I want to really promote your QiRunning. I've been telling a lot of people here about it, and some of my clients have some questions like, what QiRunning is all about. They want to know some things about maybe running form, like how to different like foot strikes. What's the proper foot strike? Is there a proper foot strike? What to do if they start to get sore knees when they start running? Are they doing something wrong? Are they, maybe running too far, too fast? And I especially want to get into the integration of the fascial slings of our mobility and motion. And if we have time, I want to talk about heart rate. And is there such a thing as keeping your heart too fast while you're running, or do you need to kind of calibrate your heart to the different zones so that you can live longer through running?
Okay, I think that should just take a couple minutes to talk about that, and we'll have about 20 more minutes to talk about anything else in the world as well. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff. There's so many things that we could be talking about. But yeah, we'll just start with maybe what QiRunning is, right? Like what it is, and then kind of go from what those other questions are. I think they're all amazing things that, a lot of runners think of, or what they're trying to do, maybe to change their form. They've heard all sorts of information on what's the right way to go. I've heard that heel striking is bad, or that kind of thing, or what should I do for this and that, and it becomes a very like, okay, what to do with my body in what certain position. I see many people where they're trying to get a certain thing down with their form, and they're thinking left arm here, right, like they get themselves all into their conscious mind, when really I tell people we have an innate ability to move. Our body has found kind of its own unique signature and is able to adapt to what it can do. So that means basically where you're tight or stiff, or wherever, you're going to have a certain movement pattern that has kind of found the path of least resistance for you. And that's something we shouldn't just say, well, I saw that my form was bad, and then I need to change it to something else. The concept of QiRunning that really drives home this concept is gradual progress. We want to understand that, hey, we have these body parts, or we have this signature that we have that has gotten us to where we have to today. We should embrace it and thank it for getting us literally where we are, right? And that we just make sure that we're gentle on ourselves as we introduce something slightly different, little awkward. We tell people when you're learning, confusion and frustration is part of the process. But basically, all we're trying to do is tune in a little bit of your own body's self-awareness, where you might be having more impact. And then just to decrease that, even just a fraction of a percentage can make huge differences as you go down the line and as you're running over time. And so, we try to embrace those little things. For example, we'll tell people with aligning your feet. So I know I just have my hands here. I can do my hands as my feet. But like, if you're standing, I'll just try to pan it out if it can. But basically, if you're standing, you can't see my feet. That's okay. But yeah, okay, here we go. So, okay. But anyway, if someone's standing and they're normally duck foot, right? And they're like this, what we tell people is, maybe ideally, quote, ideally, whatever that means, that you should be probably like straight up over your feet like this, right? However, if your body is used to here, we need to probably bring in just a little bit, but still be pointing out, right? So that should make sense, because your body, even if you say, oh, this is ideal, that's going to be too much of a swing for your body to make the shift. And even though, we say, oh, that's ideal form, or let's say, hey, we got to get ourselves to a midfoot strike or whatever, which isn't obviously necessary for most people. They need to adapt something that's a little bit more efficient. But basically, trying to bring yourselves to something closer to that, knowing that it's an ideal. An ideal is like the horizon. It's like something you're never going to achieve. It's okay. Like, I try this. I mean, Danny Dreyer, who QiRunning was kind of invented by Danny Dreyer, who does Tai Chi, and he used Tai Chi to incorporate into any movement, but mostly, his thing is running, and he, in his 50s became an ultra marathon champion, amazing, amazing, amazing runner, and he's still in his 70s, and he's just beautiful, just whisper quiet, so smooth. And even Danny, when he was going through his instructor, going through teaching this to the world, he would get his critics and say, "Oh, I saw that you landed with this, and he just kind of laughed and said, it's progress, not perfection, buddy. It's not like, I'm from the mountain teaching how this is. Same thing with me. I have my faults. I have things that I have my tendencies are. But the main thing is that I'm able to show people what's closely a well-established pattern of movement that creates less impact for somebody and allows your body to use your own natural forces. So as you're tilting forward, you're allowing your gravity to help you. Most of the time, traditional running is, your shoulders are back and you may be pushing more if you're more upright. And so that's, if you're standing straight upright, you have to propel yourself using your muscles in your body. But if you got your alignment here and you just fall forward, then you can allow your body to just use those forces of gravity. And if you find that right amount of lean, your body kind of creates this little cycle. You kind of fall forward, you catch your step, you fall forward, you catch your step. And actually, the more we can actually align ourselves and relax, which is completely counterintuitive to most people. Hey, we got to get stronger. We got to build those hips. And there's places for that. But a lot of it is, can we align ourselves correctly, engage our core muscles, and then allow ourselves to fall forward? And that's what I teach in the process. I go through that with a series of exercises. A lot of it, though, is based on just postural alignment, making sure you're lining the body up correctly. And then no matter, wherever you place your upper body, and you get your whole body in line, your feet are going to land where they need to land, So, just kind of going to the question of landing on the heel or landing on the toes or midfoot. Is midfoot best? Well, what we find is, like, no matter if you put your body in the right position, it's really hard to reach out too much, right? So it's just really hard to, like, it doesn't make sense. If you try it, it's really awkward. And so what I try to do is get people in that right position, tilt forward, and then get that feeling down. And then most people lean too much. And so then they kind of stop themselves. It kind of looks like a chicken, it kind of looks, I tell people, it's like, they get here and they're like, this kind of thing, because they're trying to stop themselves because they're leaning too far. And so what we try to do is find, and actually Danny Dreyer will actually say, and actually the instructors for QiRunning, we've kind of eliminated that term of leaning, because lean implies like really tilting forward, really too far forward. And really, it's just a subtle, elongation of your body, and then just a gentle tilt and moving from your center. So, wherever your center goes is where you're going to go, right? So all we need to do is just tilt our center a little bit over our feet, keep our shoulders a little bit over our hips, and create that cyclical motion. And so that's kind of the concept of QiRunning that we try to teach. And there's several different things in the classes I teach of like how to get these down, kind of make it, a fun learning environment where it's playful. You can allow yourself to just kind of, I tell this to people all the time, play with it and stay with it, play with it and stay with it. Don't get yourself, you think about the best learners in the world are kids, little babies. And they play with it. They don't kind of go, oh, I didn't get it. Adult learners are really hard on themselves. So I've set up the class so I give people a lot of grace and have them understand that no matter what they're doing, they're gaining a little bit more intuition of how their body needs to move. And then get one takeaway from that they can take into their own practice at home. And then coming back, the best clients that I've had are ones who've come to the class repeatedly or come back for a private session, because then I can really dial in those techniques of, what they're actually feeling, and talk through, how to feel certain things at certain times. And then that really brings on these really amazing shifts. I've seen some really cool shifts with people where, hey, all of a sudden I'm dropping a minute per mile on my runs, and it actually feels easier. And I hear that a lot. And people are like, wait a second, doesn't that mean you have to like pump and work harder? And what we're finding is you're probably, in general, most people are locking up their energy, right? They're pushing and pulling. So if they're pushing with one foot and then they're braking with the other foot, it's like driving with one foot on the gas, one foot on the brake. And so we're doing that all the time. Push, land, push, put. And so, and a lot of up and down. If we can kind of eliminate how much up and down, and it's been said, I haven't measured it, but I've heard them say, if you run a vertical, a straight ahead horizontal marathon distance that you're doing with all those vertical, oscillations every single step, it adds up to like a vertical mile, all that displacement of your hip. So, because you have to leave the ground and you're going to have a significant amount of that. But if you can decrease that by, let's say, 10% or whatever, that's going to be a huge difference. All that extra work that's not even going to where you want to go. You want to go this way, but now you're working here. And then a lot of times, a lot of people are working side to side, right? Or like we talked about, you got to get your hips stronger and stuff, your core strong. Because if you're getting all this side to side happening or side to side happening, you're trying to go this way. So it's all about, aligning yourself with gravity, directional alignment, get your body to fall forward and get into that position where you get that cycle happening. And the more actually you can relax, you have to work certain muscles. You got to get your core involved and find that right spot and get very aware of what your body needs. But as you get better with that, then it becomes something where you can actually let it out. And I say this to myself all the time on my runs is, let the lean do the work. I know we didn't say QiRunning doesn't use lean anymore, but I'll say, let the lean do the work. Let the lean do the work. And actually, the more I can kind of let that happen and not strain, that's where I'm letting out a lot of energy. QiRunning, qi is, is energy, right? We talk about qi is kind of just the Chinese term for energy, or kui, or qi, QI or CHI. Some people will call it chai running. Like, no, it's not chai. You're not going to have a chai at Starbucks or whatever. But the energy is what it's all about, lining things up, having everything go into that. And I think that's why, I've been able to, keep pretty healthy generally into my 40s, because I feel like I'm able to better integrate some of those things. I'm not perfect, but it's been really a great journey. I've been teaching the classes probably for almost 10 years now. It's been a while. Maybe not that long, but it's been or maybe 6 or maybe about 8 years or so. So it's been a while. But that's kind of a nice thing that I've noticed in my own life, that it also applies to everything else, aligning yourself with, and that's kind of what Qi living is about. QiRunning has a branch of, also we do Qi walking. So walkers will take my class as well, because we teach posture, and then we teach walking mechanics, which is just a slighter version of that. And then we teach, we get a little faster to the walk, to the point where walking is less efficient and running is more efficient. And then the walkers actually stay with us. They'll keep their walking cycle, and we'll give them cues for that, as the runners kind of do the same thing with their runs. And we'll kind of do I'm very big, and one of the biggest things is, one of the values people see from the class is the voice feedback that I give. So I'm just telling people little cues that we've gone over, and they can just hear me say that and let it go straight to their body, and not to like overthink things. We can get people out of their heads, and just get them to trust it. Then they'll feel a lot more. They'll get a sense that it's just more of these processes that you just practice, and eventually you integrate them better. And we can see that on gait analysis too. We'll see people at the beginning where they look pretty clunky, or they're falling in quite a bit, or they're reaching out too much, and then you can tell that they're integrating what they're doing, and that gives us that next milepost where we can kind of see progress along the way. So it's kind of fun to see people over the span, and then they notice these changes where, hey, my calves aren't as tight. I'm not getting all these strains as much as I can, because I've been doing the technique. So it's been wonderful. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, there's a couple of things that I think you already answered the questions, but so that the heel strike for me couldn't happen, because part of that would be like overextension of the leg. but also engaging the hamstrings a lot would be the braking system, I would imagine, in your body. So if you're trying to minimalize your movement, but also with that forward lean, which we don't say lean, I guess,
Yeah, it's fine.
you're not get that extra extension. So you're going to probably not lift as high and almost in my imagination of it, glide a little bit further. But also, if you're not thinking about that back push off, also rolling off the big toe or whatever you're thinking, you're just feeling more into your body. So it's almost like meditation, which would relax you even further,
Yeah.
which answer all those questions, so I'm not going to get into, but I want to lead into, since I also teach yoga, I'm always thinking about breath and breath work. And, I think chi and prana and all these things for energy and breath are very helpful for us with whatever metaphors we use to connect. But like staying with your breath is something that I would do when I run, and running became a meditation for me. It was so therapeutic throughout my whole life.
Yeah.
But I also know that it can help you control your heart rate. So that was one of the questions I had earlier. Do you
Yeah.
use your heart rate? Do you use speed for your run to control your heart rate, or what are the things in QiRunning that you do that so that you don't tax your heart at the higher levels?
Yeah, so yeah, good point about the fascia stuff. I think that's important to be nice and soft through your legs and stuff, and so that's kind of the way you set your posture. But yeah, to answer your question about that, basically, I try and Danny, like probably 10 years ago, I went to a class before I became an instructor, right? And he was touting the oxygen advantage back then. I don't know if you know that book by Patrick McEwen. Basically talks about nasal breathing, and it's almost all about breathing through the nose. And like you mentioned pranayama, you're trying to incorporate all that breathing through there. And definitely when I'm running, and especially if I'm running solo, right? Because you can be social while you're running, you're talking and stuff. But when I'm solo, and I did it last night, my aim is to breathe exclusively nasally. And so, and when I do that, as long as you're doing it in that right zone where it's not strained, then you can kind of keep your heart rate down. And that way, you're not breathing off the top. So a lot of folks, when they're breathing, and it's all this up here, right? Just getting this tidal volume that's very shallow. It's off the top of the reservoir, right? We got the ribs, we got all this energy back down in here. And that's what, with posture, we're aligning ourselves. We're able to expand our rib cage and get the breathing in the back and everything, right? As we're aligning ourselves. But a lot of folks are mouth breathers, and they breathe very shallowly and very quickly. So they're doing all this extra fast breathing, and that increases your heart rate, and it's way more taxing on the body. But with McEwen's work, very fascinating. I recommend it to many of my runners and clients, and for just general health and well-being, breathing through your nose is one of the more therapeutic things you could ever do. I
Yeah.
mean, like, you could just do that. Like, and I did this last year with the Skyview runners. I am a high school coach at Skyview High School, and so we did a tape run. Right, we literally got a bunch of tape. We put it over their mouths, and they had a blast with it. It was fun. So just teaching that pattern that, hey, we don't need to breathe through the mouth, and then just practicing that really helps you bring in more nitric oxide into your body, which is a very powerful, vasodilator, bronchodilator. It helps you get more energy in your cells. And so that's kind of the power behind the nasal breathing. And so I can't recommend that enough. And the key part is to go slower with that to build that up. And then you can kind of increase. I got to the point, well, first of all, I started, maybe ran a block or so before I had to go, oh my gosh, I gotta breathe through my mouth, right? But after a while, it became more of like, oh, I could go for a mile. And then now, like last night, probably going up a hill or went a little fast, I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna take some mouth breaths to catch up, and that's fine, right? And that, I give myself permission anytime I need to. I'm trying to force it, right? And it shouldn't feel forced. And that's the key, is like you relax. So, but now I can get, easily most of my runs you know, and I'm mostly conscious about it, but well, I'll do most of my runs nasal breathing if possible, especially the lighter ones, the lighter, longer ones. I'll do that. And definitely I notice my heart rate's way lower, right? So, which is kind of an interesting concept because you think, wait, you know, doesn't your heart rate just have to be pumping like crazy? And not always. It's actually something where you can practice this. So yeah.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Well, that reminded me of one of my favorite books is Breathe by James Nestor.
Yeah.
He had a something on Facebook the other day, and maybe the other day, maybe a year ago, or but it was proving that concept of the nostril breathing
Mhm.
while you were running, and he was showing a clip of Jason Bourne. Yeah, it was a movie, but Matt Damon did this. He wanted to train like a boxer, and the boxers that he met did nostril breathing while they ran. So they had this long clip of him running on the beach, just like sometimes it was just his face. You know, it was
Mhm.
one long shot, and he wasn't mouth breathing at all. And I just being amazed by that when I was, you know, when those movies came out, because I noticed that too. And you know, I was into running way back then, and I tried to nostril breathe, and like you were saying,
Yeah.
it's hard. Like it felt like I was sucking through like cocktail straws, like as hard as you could, and like it just seemed impossible. But the more I did it, the easier it got, and then you just get more in tune with your body. You know, you get in tune with the threshold that you can stay at with the nose, and then you have to go to the mouth and maybe back off. But you get more in tune, and I think anything athletic, the more in tune and aware you can be, the safer your body is going to be. You can push your limits, but you know where not to push them. All those kinds of things. So you know that's that. You just reminded me of a whole bunch of marathon training that I did, but I appreciate
Yeah.
that yeah, because it's super important. You don't want to blow out your heart. You want to have your heart, you know, healthy your whole life, and
Yeah.
you know we can't run at 100 all the time.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. And just like, you know, getting into more of those zones your body is able to handle and doing that more, building those base. And then you can get to the point where you start doing a lot more. So that's the key part is like just allowing your body to naturally build that up. And that's, you know, you mentioned a little bit about running injuries earlier. We haven't really answered, but like, yeah, a lot of like most of those running injuries are, you know, the too much too soon variety, right? There's, maybe nothing too grossly. You know, sometimes we see real, like especially the high school kids where they're growing into their bodies and there's just really gross, you know, knees collapsing in and they're just really all over the place. And you know they're trying to run hard and they're injured. So we got to build that up. But that's usually a case of just you know got to get them stronger, but also that's just part of just the natural process to build up gradually to the loads that we're trying to elicit through the body, right? Adding more miles. You know, a lot of times those variables, right? You add more miles and then you add more intensity, and then that's usually a perfect recipe for you know some sort of injury happening. If it's your hip or if it's your knees, or a lot of the beginning runners, it's shin splints. That's a huge one, especially my high school runners. It's just like. You know, it's going to start soon. Like we're starting school soon. I know it's going to be shin splint season here, and I'm going to have to be working through a lot of that. And so, and Achilles tendonitis, things that we're pushing off too much, you know, foot's collapsing in, the foot has no stability. So now we're putting more work on the inside part of the foot. Usually it's the medial tendon, you know, not the outside part of the tendon or sometimes it's mid tendon, but usually it's like on the inside part by the inner ankle bone. And so just working on all those different things, IT band as well, you know, all sorts of things. But basically, if we can make sure that those gradations of exercise are in the right build up, and we say 10% a week, but a lot of people definitely don't follow that at all, and that's when the you know you're just increasing your risk. You're just kind of rolling the dice if you do that too much. So you want to make sure you're very careful with that. So yeah, those are the definite things to make sure we're aware of, and then also just making sure your form's better, having a form coach looking at this kind of stuff. And then another thing is like one of the very simple pragmatic things to work on because I go over all the form in the classes. But if I don't have much time to talk to somebody and anybody's listening to this, all I can have you just try is when you're out running, just listen to your feet hitting the ground. Just see if you just can listen to yourself and just notice how much noise you're going, you know. And if you're running on a trail, let's say, and there's somebody up ahead of you going the same direction, how soon do they turn around because they know a runner's coming, right? You know, their old lady walking their dog up ahead and she's like, oh, somebody's coming, you know, and you're like 100 yards back or like, well, that means you're probably clumping like an elephant. So if you can listen to yourself And just that feedback of just knowing that in itself has created the sensation where people learn not to push and land hard, but to be lighter on their feet. And that's a good starter point for a lot of people. Just run tall, relax and be quiet while you run. So give that a try.
Well, thank you so much. That's we could talk forever. I'm gonna have to cut it off from here, but I just want to remind everybody we've got some great running coaches here at Northwest Personal Training, and of course we've got a great running coach in Dr. Trent Corey here. But we've got some special things. I'm going to post on Facebook upcoming events like hiking and yoga, and then some different races coming up through Y Racing and things like that. But do you have anything last before I cut you off? Anything coming up for you?
So yeah, I'll be teaching some QiRunning classes throughout the year. So just keep posted. My website's Extra Mile PT. I also do 15-minute consults for any injuries. So just to get on top of just to talk, runner to runner, love to have those conversations. And sometimes it's just like telling you what to do and not having to commit to anything. I just want to kind of be able to be a resource for runners, and then get you to feel healthy for long term. It's really about, if you love this enough, I want to be a resource for you. So that's all.
Well, thank you so much, Trent. And thank you everybody for watching. Trent, I'll see you next time.
All right, Nick, thanks so much. All right, take care.
You too.
All right.